Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back, and in today's video we are going to build something different. We are going to build this. And if you don't know, this is the famous Tinder swipe interaction, swipe left or swipe right, and we're going to build a prototype around it today. So let's not waste any time, let's get started. So to cook this interaction you will need 4 ingredients. First of all, you will need Sketch or Figma. You can use any one of it. We are going to use this to build the UI. Then you will need Principle for Mac. So Principle for Mac is a tool to create high fidelity prototypes, clickable prototypes, which are very equivalent to in experience of a real app or a website. So unfortunately, Principle for Mac is a Mac only tool. So I'll link to that in the descriptions below. Third, you will need your iPhone or iPadOS, iPhone or an iPad. It's not mandatory though, just that on an iPhone or an iPad you can quickly load this prototype and check out the interactivity. But don't worry if you don't have it, it's not mandatory. You can still create the entire interaction and check it out on your laptop itself. And fourth, the most important ingredient of this interaction is coffee. So go get your coffee. Okay guys, before we start looking at the UI, let's first see what are we going to build. I have a screen grab from the original Tinder app and you can see the interaction here. Let's closely observe the interaction here that we are going to replicate in Principle. So let me play it here. I'm sure you might have a really good look at the UI. If you have noticed, there are a couple of things in the Tinder interaction. First of all, you can obviously swipe left or right to a card. When you swipe right or left, you also see that the card tilts slightly in the direction of a movement. So it's not stays in the horizontal position. It also tilts at some angle. The next thing that you have noticed is like or no, the small check marks that appears when you move it on the right, on the left, which signifies that what action are you going to do. So these are the two key ingredients in this swipe interaction. So let's start building this. We'll quickly jump into our UI on Sketch. So guys, now we are inside Sketch and I have already created the asset for this particular interaction. We are calling it Tinder Haste for now. So if you notice, I have simplified the UI a bit so that we can just work the swipe interaction here. If you can notice, we have here our Tinder logo, we have like, super like icon and dislike icon. We have the cards where we have the profile picture of the user, we have the name, we have the age. We also have the location of the user and how far they are from your current location. And I have built a few more cards around it. So I have built a card for Alvarito, which we are going to definitely swipe left. And we have also built card for El Professor, which we are going to swipe right. Okay, so it's a fairly straightforward UI. I'll link to the sketch file in the description. And you can run the sketch file directly into Figma as well, and everything will be available to you. So I've just built this one screen and this is all what we need from Sketch. Before we hop on into Principle where we'll export this UI in, let me just give you a quick call outs. So if you see, the artboard here is taken as iPhone 8 because I'm going to port this particular interaction on my iPhone 8 because I have an iPhone 8. But if you have an iPhone 10, iPhone 11, you can choose the artboard of iPhone 10 or iPhone 11. That's the only change, nothing else, nothing more than that. No, not complicated at all. Just choose the device size that you're going to port to. So that's the artboard size. And in the left, if you can see, we have all our components grouped together. Just that if you can notice that we have also put a string called Principle Flatten in front of all the group names. So this is a very small trick with Principle. What it does is the string and the layer names that contain Principle Flatten, Principle actually merges them and create one single layer out of them. And this is really helpful in case of elements that you don't want to animate or don't want to have an interactivity, so that you don't have a lot of open elements there and they are doing some random sort of animation. So this is a really nice tool to flatten those components that you're not going to animate. So for example, in this particular UI, we are not going to animate the like icon, we are not going to animate the super like, dislike, not the logo. We are also not going to animate the card here. We are just going to swipe the card. So actually nothing is changing in the card itself. We're just going to swipe left and right. The only thing that's changing will be this like or no tags that will be appearing based on how I move. Apart from that, nothing is changing. So what I have done is I have added principal flatten in front of everything, which I'm not going to animate, so that principal creates a really simple clean layer for all those things. Okay, so now everything is set up here. Let's head back to our second software where we are going to do the animation, the prototype. It's called principal. Let's start. So guys, this is the interface for principal. It's almost same as what you have for sketch, except you also have an animation window here which shows you the preview of the animation that you're going to build. So now let's quickly import the artboard that we have built in sketch. So it's very simple. Come to principal and you can import. So if you click on import, you already see that it has already picked up in the sketch file that we have built, and you have to do an import at 3x. So if you do at import at 3x, what it does, it creates a really high resolution asset. So when you view it on your phone, which is a really high DPI device, very high resolution device, you will not see things pixelated. If you import it at different like 1x or 2x, then you will see pixelation on your elements. So always import everything at 3x so that your assets remains really crisp. Okay, great. Now we want to import the selected artboard, and it's importing, and voila, we have our artboard in principal. Great. Now if you see here, let me show you the artboards. We have super like, dislike, like, logo, card 1, card 2, card 3. And if you see, everything is now really nice and clean. We don't have excessive layers because we have flattened them here automatically by doing principal flatten. Great. Okay, so now let's start the animation. So the first thing is very basic. You need to be able to swipe things left or right. You should be able to move them around left right axis. So to enable that, what we have to do is we have to select the card number 1, that is Mr. L Professor, and what we have to do is enable horizontal drag and vertical drag. So these two properties, what it gives you the option of dragging. So now what you're doing is you're making this group draggable in horizontal layer and in vertical axis as well. So let's see how the previews look like. See? So now you are able to move them in X and Y axis wherever you want. So you're able to swipe them really easily. Now the second part of it was when I move to the right or left, the card should also tilt in that direction, right? So let's do that. To do that bit, what we have to do is now use a property of principal which is called drivers. So we click on drivers, and what basically driver basically animates other objects in relative to a base interaction. So now if you remember, we have set the card interaction to be draggable in X and Y. So it will assume that it's the base, and now you can animate other things around it. So what we want to do is that when the card is on the right or the left, extreme left, it should also tilt. It should also rotate at an angle. So let's do that. So if you see card 1, our card 1 is selected. And now what property you want? So the interface is really very close to After Effects. Now we have to add keyframes the way we do it in After Effects. So let's do that. We want the angle to change when you are at extreme right. So if I move the cursor here, see, if I drag the pointer here, the screen also moves below. So at this particular stage, we want the card to rotate. So let's give it an angle. Okay, so let's see how it works. Nice. So when we move it on the right, the card tilts. Let's do the same thing for the left bit. I think here we'll do this exact same thing but with opposite angle. Let's see the preview. Awesome. So when we move it on the right, we have card tilting on the right. When we move it on the left, we have the card tilting on the left. Okay. So one more thing before we move ahead, I also want to, so 187 is your base position where everything is at the center. I also don't want to show anything at this level. So this like and nope sticker should not appear when it's in the center. It should always appear when it's in the right or the extreme left. So to do that, I'll quickly come on this panel and I'll expand this and I'll select the nope mark and I'll select an opacity. So let's select the opacity here. Yes. And now we'll set the opacity to 0. So what we want is when the card is in the center, which is the 187 position, we don't want it to appear. And when the card is in the end, in the left, we want it to appear. So we will give an opacity of 100. Right? We'll do the similar for the other check mark, which is like. So when we just select the like and we'll select again the same opacity, and when we are on the right we want the like to appear. So here we have 100% and at the center we'll give it a 0%. Great. So let's see how it works. This is our animation preview. Great, it works as intended. Before we do anything, let's just quickly disable the opacities of the behind layer so that's not confusing. Okay, I've done that. Yes. So if you see, if I move it in the right, we have the like coming in. If we move in the left, we have the nope coming in. So yeah, so now we are done with half of our interaction. Very seamlessly, we have done the half part of the interaction. Now let's do the other half of it, which is basically when you move it on the right, it should just fly away. Move it on the left, it should just fly away, right? So let's just build that. To do that bit, what we have to do is we just have to duplicate this layer, which we'll be doing by Command D, and name it as second. And here, what we want to do is we want this card to move away. So so in the second stage, when you finally move, you should see the second card appear in, and the first card should move away. So what we'll do is we'll move this card out of the screen. So it's also inheriting, since we did the Command D, it's inheriting the property of the first one, which is fine. We'll give it a more angle so that it tilts slightly more. And we want to move the card of El Professor out on the screen like this. So if you see, if it's hanging outside, we don't want that. If you want to remove things that should not appear out of the artboard, you should do this clip sublayers, and by doing this you'll hide anything that is out of that particular thing. So if I select the artboard 2 and do clip sublayers, you won't see anything that is out of the artboard. And we want to move this card a little bit out. Okay, great. So we have moved the card out, and let's link the first artboard to the second artboard so that our swipe interaction is complete. And we'll do drag end. So basically we want, when our drag ends, when our swipe ends, we should move to the second card. Second card should appear and the first card should move away. So let's link here. Okay, I'll just hide the drive. Now let's see what happens on our interaction panel. Like, nope, and if I do this, it moves away. Great. So now we have built the first interaction fully, where we are able to like. So we do the similar thing for the dislike one, and since we hit R32, we'll do the dislike option for R32, and we'll just do the exact same thing just for the left side. So let me just really quickly finish this up. We'll do the exact same thing that we did for the El Professor card. We'll do the exact same thing for the R32 card. Okay, let's quickly do that. I'm gonna speed this bit. So let's see the interaction preview. Like, nope, great. Now we want the same thing to happen. This card should fly away from the screen. We are going to do that by Command D. And if you remember, we want to swipe left to Arthurito. So what we are going to do is, we are going to move Arthurito to the center first. Let's just move everything to the center first. And we are going to move it. Okay, we are going to give it -45, a little bit more angle, so that when it goes away, it goes out in a better way. And we will move the card out. Okay, so I think we are all done. Let's hide the panel of drivers. Now we'll just come to first. Okay, nope, like, done, nope, like, nope. Oh, okay, so we forgot to link the second artboard to the third artboard. We'll just link the second artboard. Same thing, drag ends here. Let's see what happens here. It goes away. Great. So we are done with our overall interaction for these things. We just want to give a slight touch as well, where we want that the behind card comes in front and scales a little bit, so that it gives you a sense of something coming from behind. So what we are going to do is, we are going to go to the first screen, select the card 2 and the card 3 which are behind, and give it a scale of 0.8. So they are scaled smaller. So what will happen, if you see here, in the second screen they are at 1 scale, and the behind screen they are at 0.8. So if I move, you see the card coming in, right? We'll do the same thing for the Tokyo card. We'll come here, we'll set it to 0.8, and if I move him left, voila. So now it appears as in that's coming from behind and scaling up. So guys, this is the interaction. Let's watch this interaction. I'll load it on my device and let's see how it looks. I would like to explain you a little bit around what does it mean to create an interactive prototype and how it is different from the interaction animation that you usually see on YouTube. So interaction animation are usually designed from softwares like After Effects. So what it does, it gives you a glimpse of how the thing should work, but it does not make anything interactive. So you cannot give it to a user, you cannot give it to anybody, and they cannot just click and touch and check the prototype. So it's not an interactive prototype. They cannot click and touch and control states. Whereas the one that I've shown you on Principle, here you can create an interactive prototype. What it does is basically it gives you the control where you can simulate the experience that will be there on the app or on a website. User can click on it and move to different states that you design. So it becomes a really important tool for a UX designer to have Principle in their toolbox. It's a really awesome tool to create usability prototypes. Check it out, the usability, before you actually deploy any code. So if you see, I have done everything without any code, and I have designed the entire swipe animation of Tinder here. Now you can take this code, and now you can take this file actually and can create your own. If you have any doubt, just let me know, and if you do try it out, do give me a shout out on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on Dribble. All of my links, social links, will be available in the bio. That's it, I think, for today. Take care, goodbye, and I'll be putting this preview of my handheld device after this. So take care, bye bye.